Welcome to Season 3 of Garth and Sue Talk, a series from Psych Sessions where we bring up a topic of conversation and then we just riff. But this season, things are a little different. You see, I decided to invite some mutual friends of ours to have a conversation with us, only I didn't tell Sue who would be coming, so each episode is a surprise to her. Turns out, this was a good idea. The conversations were fantastic, and they reminded me of the fun and inspiring chats you might have at a restaurant after a long day at a teaching conference. So please pull up a seat as we talk about teaching. Well, Sue, what do you feel? It's this time in spring. Now, this isn't going to get released now, but it's this time in spring where some of our friends are done for the year. How does that rub you right now? Because we still have about 6 weeks to go. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, this is the part of the year that I feel resentful. But I feel so much better come August.
Me too. I feel really good in August. Well, I don't know if this person who's joining us today has finished or is finishing, but they are not one of our people, Sue. They're not one of these quarter system people. But this person does check a lot of other boxes of in-group for us. So here they are. And I'm going to guess he's coming in hot.
You would think with the beard and the mustache, it would be harder to read his lips, but it's not.
There he is.
Well, come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right.
That's a little creepy, Eric.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
Oh man, that deadpan stare though. Yeah, that's pretty creepy. But you look great. And glassesless.
Creepy is as creepy does. That's what my mama always told me. It's like a box of chocolates. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Eric.
Good to see
Eric,
you.
we were just talking. Are you done the semester? Or?
Oh, you mean while you kept me past 5 after the hour? You mean that kind of talking?
Yeah. We were just, making you sweat for a minute because I like to do that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. What were you talking about?
No, we were just talking about being on quarters. Well, we still have, 6 weeks left and you must be wrapping up or wrapped up right now.
Yeah. We're in the very last week of our spring semester, which for a really weird reason we call Dead Week on our campus. And then it'll be finals week next week.
Is it Dead Week because no assignments are supposed to be due during this week?
No tests are supposed to be given. Assignments can be given, papers can be due, but in theory, no tests can be given because that would be rude to give a test this week and then give another test next week. So
I see.
How does that strike you from an assessment perspective that that there's a difference between tests and papers and
well. This is not the question I was going to get into with Sue, but I'm not so sure I would be giving a multiple choice test anyway, if that's what you mean by test. I do think they have their place, and I do think our colleagues overuse them and over rely on them in places as well. But to take care of our students, to have policies to take care of our students, I think it's a good idea, especially in a pandemic.
I know, Eric, that you've got something that we're gonna talk about today. But Sue, do you want to jump on this? I feel like it's big softball up in the air right now. Multiple choice testing. You want to say anything?
I understand that for some instructors, they feel like that's pretty much their only option, and I think at some places that's probably the case.
Yeah.
But I think at other institutions, if you've got smaller classes. I'm not a fan of the multiple choice test. It took me probably 3 years of listening to Professor Landrum say that taking multiple choice tests is the one skill that no employer wants before I finally figured out, yeah, that's a really good point. I should do something about that. And fortunately, I'm in an institution where my class sizes are such that I could.
How do you talk to people? Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Well, I think scalability is exactly right. If you have the luxury of small classes, you might have the luxury of a variety of assessment methods. But Sue, I think you also make a good point. At other schools, if you're teaching an intro psych, let's say across 25 sections, there might be a mandated assessment technique or a common final where you're locked in. And so, of course, you want to prepare your students for that. Or if you're teaching high school psychology and you're getting them ready for the AP test, 2/3 of the AP test is multiple choice. So, of course, you're going to teach to the test. And that's not necessarily evil. But really good multiple choice tests tell us what a student knows that day. And it doesn't tell us about the skills they've developed to transfer into either the next course, which, and prerequisites are kind of a joke and could be a whole nother topic for another day, or into their life, which the three of us know psychological content really could be applicable to their lives. But if they get into this memorize and regurgitate mode, then we're doing them a disservice to the content of psychological science.
Not that we need to blame anybody, but let's just for a moment. No. I'm wondering where for instructors who, like me, weren't trained, so many of us weren't, to teach. It seems intuitive that when you get a textbook and they have this huge bank of multiple choice questions and nobody's talked to you or taught you about assessment or different ways of doing things, it seems intuitive that that's just what you do. And do you think that still exists in higher ed, that the multiple choice test in psychology, at least, is the way? Or do you think that's changing?
I'm going to step that back one more spot, and I'm not going to put it on the test banks. I'm going to put it on our own educational experiences. We teach our classes and we assess our classes as we were taught and as we were assessed.
Yep. I think Sue's exactly right. I think it's really hard to break that cycle. Even thinking about the people who don't go into higher ed, think about the people who went to high school, took the ACT or the SAT and bragged about their scores. Then they went either into the workforce or they went to college, and some went to grad school, professional school or not. But the ACT, SAT, rites of passage, right? So you take these tests. We're all about testing at, K-12 and K-12 into college and GRE from college into grad school. And it's baked into our educational DNA. And so we do, I fully believe we teach the way we were taught, and it's hard to break that cycle.
Yeah. Well, Eric, thanks for joining us today. And I think we're going to have a great conversation. That concludes
our time. And
right,
it was great to see both of you.
You're done.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
But, you and I were...
leave meeting? Oh, no, sorry.
You and I were texting earlier, and I said, hey, are you bringing anything to chat about today? You said, I sure am. And so let's talk. What are we talking about?
All right. So, Sue, I'm going to give a little background and scenario. It's going to be long-winded. Welcome to me. And then it'll give you a chance to think for a second and come up with an answer. Sue, you have, and this is completely serious and heartfelt. So there's no joke. There's no hidden dig in here. So it's going to be really unusual in that regard.
I'm sitting down.
Yeah. You have a skill set that not many others have. This particular skill I'm going to talk about. And I've seen it with my own eyes, and I've benefited from it through you. I don't know what to call it, so I'm going to stitch together something. It's either matchmaking or connecting. You have this gift where you have conversations across the country, maybe even across the world, and you remember, which is a gift right there. And then 2 months, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years later, you have a conversation with somebody else, and you can put them together. You matchmake, you connect, or you know of someone who has a skill. You talk to someone else who has a need, and then you tell them about each other, and you give them the opportunity to connect. And they might not even connect, but they have the opportunity. Let me give you a couple of examples. APA used to hold something called ELC, Education Leadership Conference. And we were in DC one morning at a big breakfast in a big room where the best thing they had was bacon. That's all I can remember of that.
Bacon.
And Cynthia Ballar was still the person in charge of the education directorate. And I remember watching you work the room. I mean, I remember it was the thing of beauty. It really was. I'm not kidding. I'm not teasing you. and you weren't working the room for you. You were sitting at Cynthia Ballar's table, and for some unknown, ungodly reason, I was too. You probably brought me over there. And you'd have a conversation with Cynthia, and she would tell you about some issue she was having in the directorate. And you'd get up and you'd go have a conversation with somebody in the room from some university somewhere that you knew, and you'd bring them over, and Cynthia would turn and talk with them, and they would arrange to meet later on after the meeting was over. And you did this like 3 or 4 times. And I knew from those people in those conversations that you were getting nothing out of it. You weren't getting a finder's fee. You weren't becoming a consultant. You weren't getting anything out of it. And I know of this for a fact. It's happened a couple of times. Honestly, it's the reason that Psych Sessions exists. Because I know I told you independently, you and Verla, I was thinking about a podcast. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. I think I was talking to Verla about ideas. And I believe Garth had the same conversation with you either before or after me. And you put us together. So I'm going to stop here for soon. You have that gift of matchmaking where it is selfless and altruistic, and you're really good at it. I don't really know anybody better in the STP world at matchmaking. So where did that come from? Where did that come from in your life? Who did you see do that? Where does that skill come from? And why do you do that?
I love the why question. Well, so is it, somebody's going to listen to this and they're going to remember this. I think it's Malcolm Gladwell who wrote about this. And I forget the term he used, but it's essentially a social hub. So it's essentially somebody who doesn't do anything other than know a whole lot of people and connect them.
Connectors, maybe?
Maybe. Could be called connectors.
I remember it.
So, so here's what I attribute it to in the 2 minutes I've had to think about this.
I tried to stretch as long as I could.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I was going, I was stretching out my hands here on the Zoom video to get you to keep talking. But off the top of my head, I would actually credit my mother with that. She would talk to anybody. And I wouldn't say that she was necessarily a connector. I wouldn't say that she made it her life's work to match people, but she did have no problem talking to people. And I remember at some APA meeting, I was talking to a former APA president of some stripe, and one of our colleagues afterwards looked at me and said, "You'll just talk to anybody like they're people." Like, well, yeah. I mean, yes, this is a past APA president, but I bet they have feelings and thoughts just like the rest of us. So I talk to a lot of people, and I've been involved in a lot of things, and some things I have actively sought out. Doing the AP reading, as Garth and I have talked about in the past, STP and the value that STP has. We've talked about that on previous podcasts, getting more involved in APA. All of that was really important to me. And it allowed me to meet a whole bunch of people. And so now I just know a whole bunch of people. And the more people you know, the more people you talk to, the easier it is to see the connections. So Eric, for Psych Sessions, the point at which you talked about podcasts and the point at which Garth mentioned podcasts, I don't know that it was more than 6 weeks in between. So I wouldn't say that it was quite the feat of memory for me to pull that off.
Yeah, but Sue, okay, so you're skipping over some really key things. I think you identified a couple of them. One is you're extroverted enough that you'll talk to anybody. And some of us just won't do that. If I'm in a room with 14 APA ex-presidents, odds are I'm not going up to any of them. Maybe Diane Halpern, maybe Bill McKeechee if he was still alive, of course. But I'm not so extroverted that I would want to go up to talk with them. So I think that's part of that gift. But the other thing is that, the BS line that you started with, well, if you haven't done anything, then all you've got to do is connect, or whatever that was. We can play that one back in the transcript or the deposition. Part of the credibility that you have to talk to those folks, and let's be honest, and why they'll talk to you is because you had done so many things. So, and this is not a good way to say this, and we might edit this out. When a nobody goes up to a former APA president, or, and we all know that people do the name tag check, right? Who am I talking to before I start talking to them? And we do know people who do that at conventions. Part of your ability to have access to people, to be able to connect them, is because of the accomplishments that you have.
Part of it is that, but in looking, I don't know that I would just go up to any random former APA president. The APA presidents that I'm thinking of, and I'm just using APA president as an example.
Yes, of course.
But the ones that I can think of off the top of my head, which would be all the recent ones, I've known in other contexts, not other contexts. I know them through APA, but through other APA board and committee work and the Education Leadership Conference and so on. So it's not like I'm just picking random former APA presidents and going
right.
up and talking.
You knew them through your membership committee work and maybe Codapar and other things that you were part of. Yeah, I get it. But there's a selflessness piece in there too, because you could make all those connections and keep them in your hip pocket. And because I think we have colleagues in our sphere who do that, who hear about, AP is looking for someone to write a book on X. I'm going to keep that one in my hip pocket, or I don't want Y to write it because I think X should write it. And I don't see you doing that. I see you being very selfless in giving connections away.
I'm starting to think I should start charging for them.
It's called a consulting fee or something.
Right.
That's a finder's fee. Absolutely. That's what Sue, I know you're joking, but this is part of the remarkable gift that you give.
Well, I appreciate that, Eric. And I'm glad that you see that as an altruistic sort of thing. But for me, it's like, why? I have nothing to gain by keeping that kind of information to myself. I'm ultimately devoted to the profession. I want everybody to have access to psychology. I want all of our psychology instructors to be excellent, especially our intro psych instructors. So anything that I can do to foster that. So if I can match make you and Garth to put together this awesome podcast, why would I not do that? Ultimately, it's what's good for the profession. I'm not going to do a podcast. Although, strangely, Garth has sucked me into this series, and this is the third iteration of it, and I understand he has other ideas. So that didn't work out for me at all.
Well, you didn't expect, when you connected us, you didn't also expect that, that we'd have a friendship. I mean, I think you probably thought, well, that'll be the end of Garth in my life. If I just give him this, then I can just walk away. Right.
That's what I was thinking for both you and Eric. If I can just pawn you off onto each other, then I don't need to deal with either one of you. And look at what's happened here today.
The acceptance of a microphone in the mail was an implicit contract. So FYI,
I understand that now.
So one of the things I hear, Sue, is that it's actually, and I've seen you do this, so it's fun for you. I mean, that's
totally.
the payoff.
It's a blast. Yeah, totally. It's a blast.
Yeah. I mean, ask probably anybody who's been around STP for a long time, who's the networker? Sue Franz, the network. And And that is, that's just fun. You like sitting around in a group and talking teaching. You like having answers to people's questions, and it doesn't even have to do with psychology. Sometimes it has to do with books or things that have nothing to do with psychology at all. I think you're a really curious person. And so when curiosity strikes someone else, when they say, hey, I wonder where you would start with. And Eric, you have a bit of this in you too, actually, where you're like, oh, I know how to help you with this. It ain't me, but I know the person. So.
Yeah, but Sue's she's in the 99th percentile on this. Just the way you said it just a couple of minutes ago, I hope people will play back this recording. It's just, I like giving it away. It's just like, that is such an unusual gift, because I think the rest of us also hear people say, hey, I'm interested in cognitive developmental, and I'm thinking about writing a blog. And I might hear 6 months later, hey, I'm interested in cognitive developmental, but I'm interested in writing a blog, but I don't want to do it myself. And I might hear those two things, and I might even go, I kind of heard somebody say that before myself, but I'm not going to go back and look it up or remember it or take the time to put them together, because I'm too lazy, or I'm too self-centered, or I'm 400 emails behind in my inbox, and I'm just not going to do it. Whereas, Sue, I believe you will. And that's the difference between you and most other people in our tribe.
I think you might be giving me maybe a little more credit than I deserve. My memory is not that good, frankly. With these guests that Garth is bringing in as surprises, he had been asking, and for people who've been listening to the series, that early on Garth would say, so Sue, when did you and so meet? And we would have this awkward pause because we would have no idea. Like, neither one of us. One, because I didn't stand out at the time. And for me, because I have no memory. And my wife, Verla, will confirm that. She is the one in the relationship in charge of memories. I'm not. So it's entirely possible. In looking at all of the people that I know, I might have maybe a 50% accuracy rate in actually pulling that off. Right now, Eric, I know that a few years ago in Denver, I talked to, and I'm doing this to kind of prompt that person to email me. I talked to somebody who was with a publisher who was interested in working on a project with me, and I cannot remember who that person is.
We had a good 5 minutes of you trying to remember once off air.
Yeah, that's right. We did. And I've searched my email. I'm pretty sure it was the STP conference in Denver. It was at now I'm blanking out the name of the hotel, but it was that very cool hotel.
Oh, the
downtown. The Curtis Hotel. It was at the Curtis Hotel. It was the Curtis Hotel bar. I can picture it. I walked past Reagan in the hotel bar, talking to Catherine. Shoot, now I screwed up her name.
Kathy Becker, please.
Yes, Kathy. Walked past them both. I remember it very clearly, to go have a conversation with this woman. It was a lovely conversation, but I cannot remember who it was. So I'm going to say I got a 50% accuracy rate. What you have seen are the 50% of the times when I've been successful.
I'm going to say that your 50% accuracy rate is better than anybody else's. The connection that you do with 50% is better than everyone else's connection rate in the country.
I'll accept that.
Sue, let me ask you, when you do see things like psych sessions or whatever have some success, or friends get a bunch out of it because you've made that connection, and I think you can probably think about iterations. Like, for example, I think you introduced me to Danae and Brooke, who have become really good lifelong friends of mine. So when you see those things and how much it worked, like, do you ever sit back and be like, that's pretty cool?
Yeah, and these people should buy me a beer.
Well, and I just thought of another one, by the way. There is no way that I received an APA presidential citation in 2014 from Nadine Kaslow if you don't put her name, my name in her ear. Absolutely not, because I know that's what you did. She didn't know me.
I have no memory of that, but I'll take credit for that.
Okay, so you don't have to rehearse for a congressional hearing, all right? I know it was you. I know it was you. So.
That may be entirely the case, but if it was somebody else, they're going to come forward. I'm also completely expecting that after this session airs, I'm going to get emails from all kinds of people because they're going to want me to connect them with somebody. And so just everybody knows, I will send you the Venmo payment request.
Right. So can we start a matchmaking site? Maybe we could go for like professional psychology relationships, also friendships, maybe romantic, and we could call it.
No, not romantic. She's committed, but you are going to get requests for. It was me with the book deal in Denver. It was me with the book deal in Denver. You're going to get 14 book deals.
Let's hope so.
You're going to get 14 book proposals out of this podcast.
Well, now you know my ultimate goal. I've been found out.
Sue, I have a question for both of you. You're both past presidents of STP, and there is this thing that happens, I think, where kind of your involvement changes in the community after that, and because you've been really working through committees and task forces and into more responsibility and vice presidents, and then, or however that route looks for you, and then eventually STP president. And so both of you can answer, but Sue, what has changed for you with is network? Obviously, you know more people just because of longevity than you ever have at this point, but because I'm guessing kind of the public, I almost said exposure. That's not the right word, but it is the right word, is decreasing after that. Maybe how do you see your role as this kind of networker, since maybe things have shifted a bit in the last couple of years since you've been STP president?
It shifted for everybody, pandemic wise. We used to. Conferences for me had really become social events that I will be honest in this and saying that I was attending fewer and fewer sessions and spending more and more time talking to people in the hallways, in the coffee shops, in the bars, not just random people in the bars, but psychology people. And it really became, my wife really calls it the psychosphere, and it's this international network of psychology friends that I have. And the last year and month has been difficult because this is through Zoom is the primary way that I'm seeing people now, and I miss those connections. So I don't so much miss the work of STP. That I was on the executive committee for, I think, 9 years between my vice president time and my presidential time. And that's a long time to be on the executive committee. It was actually probably a little too long to be on the executive committee. And before that, there was other work that I did with STP. So I don't really miss the work. I miss working with the people. Not enough to get back involved. I'm very happy with the next generation, as it were, taking over that. But not seeing people at conferences and conventions and other meetings, that's been the weird part.
Yeah, I know that resonates with you, Eric. I'm going to guess anyway that conferences for you have become about people as well.
Yeah, yeah, Sue nailed it, really. I think once you served as STP president or any president of any society or organization, in some ways, it's your turn to get out of the way and let other people take opportunities. I think that's hard for some people. And it was even hard for me. I mean, I came back to serve as the STP director of APS programming, and I'm in my third year of that. And I could have re-upped for another term, and I've chosen not to on purpose because it's hard to walk away from this organization. Like Sue has said, you've been a leader of or been an integral part of. I served as secretary before I became STP president. So you're involved in a long time. But other people need to step up, and they do, and have those leadership responsibilities. And there are people and we need seasoned individuals to serve as council members and represent us. And so there's always opportunities for some people. But here's the other part that Sue mentioned that I'm going to be just a little bit more blunt about, because I think people realize this, but they don't come out and say it. I think this happens to just about everybody in their career. You start going to conventions, teaching conventions as a learner. You go to get ideas. You go home energized, new ideas for your classroom or for your research or for your lab. And there's this point in your career where there's a flip. It could be subtle or it could be sudden, where you start going to conventions as a teacher, where you've already read the stuff that people are presenting, or you've already heard about that journal article, or you've already heard that person give that talk somewhere else. And you go more as a teacher, and then exactly what Sue said, you're going to network with your friends and your colleagues, because that's where you get a chance to see them. And that's not evil at all. The only difficulty of that is, to my mind, is that that's where we have to fight cliques, where in organizations get accused of being cliquish, because that's where your friends want to get together and see one another. So we just have to be careful and invite more people in, and go out to dinners and invite new people in, as well as see your old friends. But your old friends want to see each other. So,
well, those new people can find Sue at the bar next time we're face to face, right?
That's right.
Eric, they can find you in the back row of most sessions.
Almost always. And I know it's hard to believe this for some people. I'm an introvert. And so at the bar, I can't hear very well. And so I want to have a conversation. I would much rather be at a dinner with 4 than at a bar with 40.
Yeah.
Those big STP dinners where the 12 of us would go out. I used to love that EC dinner, the people, but you're only going to be able to talk to the person to your left and the person to your right. And that was it. I think one time we got in trouble a little bit. In fact, I have a napkin with the card game tally on it in my office here. Sue and I might have gotten in a little bit of trouble with Jane and Jen because we opted out of something we should have gone to. And we went to a neighboring hotel and we played Spite and Malice in July of 2019. And I'd much rather have a conversation with 4 than be in a crowd of 40, personally.
And that's absolutely true for me, too. But to give you a sense as to when, maybe not when, but how that shift took place of going to conferences and conventions to attend sessions versus to meet people. And for me, it's both. For me, it is...
And to teach. And you're a teacher, too.
And to teach. Part of it for me is still absolutely about seeing all of you, but it's also about meeting new people. So it started a few years ago. I don't remember how long ago now, when I would, in the evening, I would talk to my wife on the phone, or if she didn't go to whatever conference it was with me, and she would say, "Did you make any new friends today?" And then at some point it shifted to, who did you make friends with today? So it used to be for me a successful conference. And I think it was Ruth Alt who told me this, was if you attend a conference and you get one thing you can use out of every day, it's been a successful conference. And for me, it's now you meet somebody new, then it's been a successful conference.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between an extrovert and an introvert. Yeah.
I would not. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put myself out.
I knew this was coming. Go ahead.
Okay, you've mentioned this a few times, and I got to put a stop to it because I don't want listeners to think that I'm an extrovert.
Oh, I'm not labeling you.
That's what I was hearing.
No, I'm labeling myself.
I see. Well, I certainly don't think of myself as an as an extrovert.
Oh, you are, but that's okay if you don't want to label yourself.
It's an energy thing. It's I want to explain that a little bit more. Teaching. So it doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. When you stand up there, you are taking on a role. And so if you are scared to death of talking in front of people, too bad. You're going to put on a persona. Doesn't have to be you, but you put on a persona and you do it. And I didn't realize to what extent I had done that. I took that to heart many, many years ago when I started teaching. I don't remember who gave me that advice, but it was fantastic because I'm like, oh, okay, this has nothing to do with me. This is me taking on a role so that I can help people understand psychology. So as many of the listeners know, I present a lot on technology, and I was giving a presentation someplace, and it was the first time my wife had ever seen me present. It completely freaked her out. She essentially refuses to ever watch me do it again. But she said the amount of energy you put into it, one, that's not you. And two, the amount of energy you put into it, no wonder you come home tired after a day of teaching.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, I would say that that's also true of what you get from me at the AP reading, at a conference, at APA convention, at a APA meeting. That's what it is. I'm putting on my suit, my psychology suit, and that's what you get. So don't judge my introversionness, extroversionness based on what it is that you see.
First off, it's not mine to judge. And I agree with you. When I go into the classroom, I flip the switch. I am freaking hilarious. Trust me. I have high energy. I am extroverted. I take control of the classroom. But if I'm in the department, if I'm talking to my colleagues, I am much more subdued. And the differences are subtle. And of course, you know yourself better. And I'm just playing with you when I say I'm not labeling you, but you are an extrovert. Of course, I'm just dinking around. But the difference is in that ELC ballroom, when you're flipping this switch and being on in that room, you have a level of comfort where you'll go up to people and you'll connect while your switch is flipped. And even in that situation, I won't. And this is something I admire about you. I'm not teasing you about it. For my money, it's a flaw or a weakness or a talent I have not yet developed, which I better hurry up and damn do it at 58. That's all. I get it. You know, we're on when we're with each other in public, in a public setting, like a conference in front of the director of the education directorate. Yeah.
Well, as the lone extrovert in this group, I'll remember not to drag all my friends out with us when I'm with each of you respectively.
The thing is, you can't drag me. Ask Regan about a story one night when we flew into somewhere, and he and Pam Ansberg from Metro State were out somewhere, and they called me, and I was in my hotel room, and I was on my bed, had my laptop out, and they said, hey, we're out at so-and-so place. Come out and be with us. And I said, no, I'm in for the night. And they said, no, come out. This is Regan and Pam Ansberg, two people I really adore. They said, no. And I said, damn it, I'm on my bed. I'm in my underwear. I'm not coming out for the night. I'm in for the evening. And they were flabbergasted that I would not put on pants for them and leave my hotel room.
And that's the difference. If that's me, the ears perk up like a dog. And I'm thinking, where's the party?
Yeah, you're going to throw on the man bun. You're going to whip your hair back. You're going to put a rubber band in, and you're going to go out and join them.
He'll skip the pants, though. I don't think he's going to bother putting on pants.
I'm not going to put on the pants.
No.
You know this.
I've seen it.
I'm not, I wasn't at those 3-hour Friday faculty meetings, so I really can't speak to that.
It's crazy. Hey, Eric, it was really nice talking to you. And that was just such a wonderful topic. And I'm glad we got to have that conversation publicly because, Sue, you really have helped so many people out in that way. It's one of your great contributions to the field. And I like hearing Eric give that praise. That's fun for me to listen to. So anyway, both of you, thanks for the conversation today.
Thank you,
My
Garth.
pleasure.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks for asking.